He's like, we don't want no bad Jews. Okay, we only want the good Jews, you know, the kind that need to live in the desert, as a matter of fact, when I send their asses out there. Okay. Like ecological terrorism that will bite you in the ass inevitably, mind you, as in the non-indigenous trees that you're planting are not in reason. It means that they're not supposed to grow there. It means that they will, again, cause massive fires, for example, massive wildfires. It will destroy the land. So it ends up like when you destroy the indigenous olive trees and do this thing, when you you're basically salting the earth, okay? You're causing the soil to change. That is something that ends up cooking you in the long run anyway. I had a couple of trees planted in my name as a bar mitzvah present. Do you think it's worth reaching out to the org to ask them to chop them down? No, I think it's done. Yeah, they only planted the one type of tree as well, destroying all biodiversity and meaning more wildfires. Yep. That's exactly how Lahaina burnt down non-native grasses that couldn't handle Hawaiian heat and global warming, making heat worse. The drying of native Hawaiian land. Yes, that's what made it so much worse. Now, having said all of this, as you know about the Zionist Project, you know about the fascism, you know about what's going on. International Criminal Court is looking to set up an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu. What is the American government doing? Oh, that's right. The American House of Representatives today, or yesterday rather, put forward a sanctions package for the new prosecutor, Karim Khan. We had a sanctions package for the previous prosecutor, Ben Suda, if you recall, for the same exact reason, mind you, daring to criticize Israel, daring to prosecute Israel for its many war crimes. Unacceptable, of course. Just to understand what side of history we're on the wrong side. We're on the bad side, okay? We're on the bad side of history. Now, when people say history won't look it won't look kindly upon the American population, that only means if Israel and the American government falls at the end of the day. Only then will we correctly and accurately describe the historical events that are unfolding in front of your eyes. Because otherwise, it'll be just like the Armenian genocide and the way that it's mentioned in Turkey, or the indigenous genocide, both in Australia, Canada, and the United States of America, 3 settler colonies. And the way that we talk about that indigenous genocide will be how the way people talk about the Israeli genocide of the native population. Hopefully, that is not what will happen. You know, that's why I try to use my time and all of my efforts in the best ways possible to educate people and try to change the trajectory. Now, having said that, as I mentioned, we have decided to invite Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, to the United States of America in an effort, in a moment of bipartisanship. Moment of bipartisanship. How beautiful. God, I love America so much. I love bipartisanship. I'm a fucking dumbass. Mike Johnson, Michael Penis, alongside Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, has invited Bibi Netanyahu to speak to the American Congress.
In an interview with Time magazine, President Joe Biden was asked whether Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is prolonging the siege of Gaza for his own political gain. Biden responded, "There is every reason for people to draw that conclusion." This comes after the Times of Israel recently reported that an aide for Netanyahu told families of the hostages currently in Gaza that Netanyahu's government will not agree to end its war in Gaza in exchange for a deal to release those remaining in captivity. We should say that was a week ago. 2 far-right parties that are part of Netanyahu's governing coalition are explicitly threatening to quit the government if the deal is accepted, which would then collapse the Netanyahu government entirely. all of which makes it odd that Netanyahu has been extended the extremely rare privilege of addressing the United States Congress as soon as next week by all four bipartisan leaders of Congress, particularly given the fact that one of them, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, has already called for Netanyahu to resign. And the fact that Netanyahu has spent his entire career actively working to get Republicans elected over Democrats here in the U.S., to say nothing of the moral catastrophe that his war in Gaza has wrought on Palestinians, where the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is seeking an arrest warrant for Netanyahu on allegations of war crimes. Senator Bernie Sanders is independent Vermont. He's chairman of the Health Education.
Change your batteries, pal. Are you talking to me? Because the beep is not coming from my house.
Labor and Pensions
Coming
Committee.
from the video.
He recently announced he will not be attending Netanyahu's speech before Congress. Senator, was the Democratic caucus in the Senate given input into this decision to invite him, or a heads up?
Of course, that's a good question. And to the best of my knowledge, there has been very, very little debate on this decision. And I think I speak not just for myself, but for a number of other senators who think that that decision is a very, very bad one. You do not honor a foreign leader by addressing a joint session of Congress who is currently engaged in creating the worst humanitarian disaster in the modern history of this country. Obviously, as we all know, Israel has a right to defend itself.
Oh, boo, Bernie, boo.
Against Hamas terrorism and the terrible
You don't
attack.
have to say that, bro. You just don't. You don't have to say it. It's been 8 months, dog. It's been 8 months, big dog.
Of October 7th. But what it is doing now is going to war against the entire Palestinian people. And what we are seeing now is starvation and famine impacting thousands and thousands of children. The architect of that policy is not somebody you honor by bringing to the United States Congress, in my view.
I want to play for you something that the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, had to say about you specifically, because I want to give you an opportunity to respond. He's one of the four leaders that invited Netanyahu. And this is what Speaker Johnson had to say about your objections to Netanyahu coming. Take a listen.
This is a time to choose a side. If Bernie Sanders wants to side with the terrorists, that's so be it. And if other Democrats want to do that, it's on them. But I'm telling you, I pray and hope and expect that most of the members of the House of both parties and the Senate will join us for this historic address.
He's like, we don't want no bad Jews. Okay? We only want the good Jews. You know, the kind that need to live in the desert, as a matter of fact, when I send their asses out there. Okay? You understand me? The bad Jews we'll send to hell right now. The good Jews, they'll go to hell when the rapture happens. I'm Mike Johnson, and this is how I feel about the Jews. Number one ally of Israel in Congress.
What do you say to being accused of siding with the terrorists if you do not join?
I mean, it is at this.
You think Christian Zionists are anti-Semitic? I don't think Christian Zionists are anti-Semitic. I know Christian Zionists are anti-Semitic. It's because Christian Zionism is an anti-Semitic concept. Okay? It is built upon the idea that Jews go to the desert away from us, okay? They use their magic money powers in the desert away from us, us good Christians of the faith, okay? And then the ones that don't convert to evangelical Christianity burn in hell eternally when the rapture happens, okay? They all die at the end of Christian Zionism. They all die. All the Jews die, okay? The only ones that get sucked into the heavens are the ones that are born-again Christians at that moment.
Disgusting lie. He said it yesterday. He said it again today. And I guess, you know, if you are part of the MAGA group, right-wing Republicans, big lies are what you do. You just say lies over and over again, and you hope people believe them. As I have said from literally day one of this terrible war, what Hamas did is atrocious. Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, is a war criminal. He should be in jail. And Israel had every right in the world to defend itself against Hamas. But
like, the reason why this argument is inherently self-defeating is like, okay, so if it was only 5,000 babies that Israel fucking slaughtered, then you'd be fine with it? Like, what are we doing? What are we fucking doing? Like, people will say, oh, he has to say this. Bernie has to say this. I think it's copium. Okay. I think it's copium from people who want to maintain the position that like Bernie Sanders is woke. It's just like any moment that you spend right now, even remotely justifying Israel's actions and not calling it what it is, genocide, is a moment that you are lending credence. Is a moment that you're lending credence to like Israel's military occupation and actions in Gaza in general.
But what Johnson is doing is what right-wing people always do. Back in the day, if you stood up for civil rights or social justice, they called you a communist.
For the record, I don't think it's pragmatism. I don't think it's pragmatic. I think it's complicity. That's it. I love Bernie Sanders. I will always love Bernie Sanders. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just, this is the one issue where I think he's at best a liberal Zionist. He is not progressive as Israeli Jewish members of the Knesset, like Dr. Ofer Kasif, for example. It's just not a thing that he is going to be woke on. And it's not even the distinction of like anti-Zionism or pro-Zionism or anything like that. I'm not like, I don't care what he calls himself. He doesn't have to be like, I am an anti-Zionist or whatever. You know, he doesn't have to say any of that shit. Straight up wrong about this one? No. You can't, as a lifelong socialist who has demonstrated an ideological commitment to an ideological commitment to ending Western chauvinism, okay, for most of your career, most of your political career, turn around and reiterate Western chauvinist principles in the midst of an ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. Okay? I love Bernie. You know I love Bernie. Come on, guys. And I will always love Bernie. Okay? And pre-October 7, I would go so far as to say Bernie Sanders was one of the, if not the most aggro anti-Israel politician on the record. Okay? It was unheard of in contemporary American politics to say we have to do conditional aid to Israel. Like, we are going to stop the money faucet if they keep doing violence to the Palestinians. Bernie said that. Okay? He did. And he still does, to a certain degree, continue to say that. Which is wild to see him not assume the same stances that like many of the other politicians now that are active in Congress, influenced by his courage to be an open socialist, to say he's a socialist for years and years. Like, for him not to be leading that charge right now is really sad to see. Okay? That's it.
If you are prepared to take on Netanyahu's outrageous war against the Palestinian people, I suppose now they claim that you're sympathetic to terrorism. It is a lie, and I really am not happy with what he is saying.
It's more than rhetoric. I should note that the House today, a bipartisan vote, a minority of Democrats voting for this provision, I think only about 40, and a vast majority of Republicans voting for it. They passed legislation today that would sanction.
Yeah, like, thank you. This is a great question from I Am Not a Paranoid Schizo. Says, what part of Israel's actions after October 7th could possibly be considered defense? It's not even an accurate description. Exactly. You're 100% correct. Everything isn't all or nothing. You can hold two separate beliefs at the same time. No, in this circumstance, you are basically lying at the behest of a genocidal apartheid regime when you say, when you masquerade Israel's genocidal actions, because like it didn't take long for the Israeli defense minister to say, we are fighting human animals. We will cut their fucking food, water, and electricity off. Okay? That was like October 9 or 10. The fuck do you mean? Israel was already using white phosphorus by the end of October. That was 8 months ago, Chad. What the fuck are you talking about? How is that defensive in any capacity? It's not. When you even remotely claim that these are defensive actions, but they've just gone, they've gone on for far too long, you're basically saying all the early stuff, I was with it. And he was with it. That's why he didn't fucking demand an end to it for months.
Impose sanctions against the International Criminal Court for its move to issue arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other officials for war crimes in the nation's war against Hamas. The bill is unlikely to get a vote in Democratic control.
Someone is upset. You are just wrong. Just know that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Yeah, dude. Yeah, keep repeating it over and over again. I'm sure that it will change. I'm sure it will change the outlook that everyone sees that Israel is committing an ethnic cleansing campaign. Okay? Israel does not have a right under international humanitarian law, under the rules and regulations of the international rule-based order, to defend itself, quote unquote, in an offensive campaign as a belligerent occupier on a open-air prison that it is set. Okay? Gaza, even after 2005, was still functionally under the control of the Israeli state. Okay? They did not have their own sovereign. They do not have their own sovereignty, no matter how much Israel lies about that shit. They did not have trade. They did not have a fucking airport. They did not have their own ports. All matter of commerce going into Gaza was controlled by Israel. That is the actions of a belligerent occupier. Kill them all. We stand with Israel, says Feature Ibrahima. Yeah. Thank you for immediately demonstrating your obviously genocidal sentiment. We didn't have to, pry it out of you. You voluntarily gave it up. You are a Nazi. Okay? I don't think I'm the upset one. I think you are the upset one. By the way, Mehtakar, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. I forgot to mention it. That happened 5 minutes ago. Sorry. You're just wrong on all points. Brother, you just said kill them all. We stand with Israel. How do you think that is even remotely redeemable? Once you say that, everyone knows exactly what you are. Okay? Like, what do you mean? I think you have to understand. I think you have to understand something, okay? You might be whipped up in a frenzy, right? You might be whipped up in a frenzy. You might have an in-group of people that are in your immediate vicinity that share the same kind of genocidal sentiment and genocidal attitude that you have. But when you leave that group, the reason why many Israelis currently feel alone in the world and think that like anti-Semitism is on the rise everywhere, which it is, by the way, anti-Semitism is on the rise, but like that, like the UN is anti-Semitic and Hamas, or all of these instruments of justice, international justice, are actually completely controlled by Hamas. The reason why you feel that way is because you are rabidly genocidal, and you cannot comprehend a world where other people look at this and maybe aren't as invested in the Zionist fascist project and see it for what it actually is. You can't say kill them all, we stand with Israel, and then maintain this posture that like this is defensive and that you're actually doing a good thing and that people should be on board with it. And a lot of this is born out of, I'm trying to be as charitable as possible with the hopes that maybe, okay, now you're just doing blood and soil propaganda. You already said kill them all, we stand with Israel, and now you've just relegated back to blood and soil propaganda, only furthering the argument that this is 100% just pure fascism through and through. The land known as Israel has a long and history rich history dating back to thousands of years that holds significant value in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. The ancient kingdoms of Israel and Judah were situated in this region. Okay. He's just copy pasting Wikipedia. I don't know why, but you're not hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth. That facts, bud, you lost. Why do you respond to obvious Hasbro people? I do it because it's pretty easy to fucking... I do it for this reason. Because obvious Hasbro people will come in here and be like, you must be really upset right now. And then immediately demonstrate their fucking perspective like that. They fold so quick. That's the reason. And then they just go, you lost, bud. Which is, again... further demonstration of the hug box that so many Zionists are in. They don't understand it. They will never understand it. They will never understand why so many people around the world now see the truth. Okay? Like, he's arguing against the shadows. He's shadow boxing in the chat and thinking that he's posting his dubs. When in fact, many people look at him and go, dude, that is fuck are you saying? Do you understand? And it's the same exact reason why so many Zionists feel alone and cannot understand why the rest of the world looks at them and goes, ew, that's fucking gross. You're doing a genocide. I don't want no business with that. Okay? Genuine question. Do you think this also comes from fear because the Zionist project is failing the propaganda department for once in a long time? No, the propaganda was always going to be a failure because the actions do not match the propaganda itself. The only difference is people are now paying attention to it, paying attention to the actions. And they're seeing that the forward posturing that you hear from Hasbro trolls, it does not match the actual actions that Israel is taking. That's it. And it is that arrogance and entitlement and complacency that was born out of 76 years of a genuine lack of interest, maybe even a calculated lack of interest and propaganda that cause so many Zionists now to show their fucking true opinions about the Palestinian population. They can't reason with it. They can't understand that people go, dude, yeah, that's really fucked up. 36,000 people? No thanks. I don't like that. It's not even a thing. It's just, they just don't understand it, and they get more and more rabid and more angry as time goes on.
Senate, but since I have you here, I suspect you would not support that, but I want to ask you what you think about the House passing.
I mean, needless to say, I wouldn't support it, and it's a terrible idea. But the function of the ICC is, Chris, as you know, is to implement international law, Geneva Convention and other laws that were established after the horrors of World War II. Last year, the ICC said that Putin is a war criminal, which I believe he is, kidnapping thousands of Ukrainian children and starting...
Okay, do you think Netanyahu's a war criminal too then? Like, I don't get it.
In Europe since World War II. He is a war criminal. Recently, last month, they said that Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, is a war criminal for having started this war and the terrible atrocities against innocent Israelis. He is. But you know what? Netanyahu, who is now bringing about an unprecedented humanitarian disaster, destroying housing.
That's the other part of this conversation that also frustrates me to no end, saying Yahya Sinwar started this. Yeah, bro. He started this. Like, come on, dog. You were alive when Israel wasn't a thing. The fuck do you mean? You were literally there. It's crazy. I mean, you were alive when Moses was around, but that's besides the point. Okay, you were alive when Jesus was around. You saw it all. You're 800,000 years old. Okay, but the notion that like, oh, Yahya Sinwar started this is fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. It's ahistorical nonsense. 76 years? Come on. Hamas started this. Like there, I can never turn around and act like this is a valid thing to say because it's not.
The infrastructure, the healthcare system, and creating conditions in which thousands of children could starve to death, you know what? That is a violation of international law as well, and he should be charged with that.
The president came forward and announced an endorsement of the contours of a deal that had been a deal, as far as my understanding, and there's a lot of back and forth on this, so none of this is, it's a little hard to nail down, but the contours of a deal between...
So wait. What is he?
As well, and he should be charged with that.
Yahya Sinwar is a war criminal. Okay. What about Bibi then?
The president came forward and announced an endorsement of the contours of a deal that had been a deal, as far as my understanding, and there's a lot of back and forth on this, so...
I know he was talking about Bibi. I am listening. Even then, he can't get himself to say Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. He's just saying he should be charged with the unprecedented destruction that he is. Oh, you guys are not understanding. Okay, whatever. You're right. He is alluding to it. Even then, though, he can't get himself to like openly fucking say those words.
None of this is, it's a little hard to nail down, but the contours of a deal between Israel and Hamas for release of hostages in exchange for a cessation of hostilities, essentially for some period of time, and then maybe that transitions. It seemed he was attempting to try to stop both sides from backing out of the deal publicly. What is your reaction to...
Chatters are so good at picking up on neutral language, okay? Chatters are so fucking quick to call out the New York Times when they do passive voice when describing Israel's actions. Palestinians are never ruthlessly slaughtered. Israelis are ruthlessly slaughtered, mercilessly slaughtered in their beds. They all have lives, dreams, and aspirations cut short by the Hamas terrorists, right? Palestinians, on the other hand, well, they simply perish as a consequence of this naturally occurring phenomena, okay? You are so quick to recognize the neutral tones and passive language when it comes to mainstream media. But obviously, when it's Bernie Sanders doing some of that, okay, while also repeating a lot of ahistorical propaganda that favors Israel's actions to a certain degree, while simultaneously saying it's a humanitarian crisis. Even saying it's a humanitarian crisis alone makes it seem like it could be a byproduct of an earthquake or a tsunami, a volcano exploding, okay? For Chatter, I don't think it's a new fear for Zionism. Israelis always exist within this fascist paradox of eternal paranoia regarding the existence of the state on the one hand, and look at how powerful and great we are despite being so small on the other. Both just get more vulgar in times like this, but they're always present. Arabs, Haredi, secular Jews, everyone is somehow an existential threat to the existence of Israel. Yeah. Speaking of Haredis, didn't a Haredi party in the Netanyahu coalition also called for a ceasefire today or yesterday? The Haredis are fucking rising up, dude. They don't want to serve in the goddamn military. Let me tell you, they're like, nope, fuck this shit. Show Bernie stands with a principal stand.
One of you.
Show the Bernie stands what a real principal stance looks like.
Thank you, every single one of you, being here tonight to bear witness of the horror that is now going on in Rafah. 1 million people kettled into Rafah whilst the Israeli forces continue the bombardment. 34,000 already killed. 11,000 of those at least are children.
I don't know if I can show some of this.
The response in Western Europe and the United States is to attack those who demonstrate in support of those who are under attack. Well, that's why we're here tonight, because we are determined to bring about a justice and to bring about an end to the occupation. And so the US and Europe might attack the International Criminal Court. Then Germany might ban Yanis Varoufakis from speaking at a Palestinian event. France might ban Dr. Abu Sitta speaking. But we will carry on whatever they say and whatever their answer is to that. The reality is not going to go away. That millions of people all over the world, just like us here tonight in Whitehall, are meeting, marching and demonstrating in support of the Palestinian people. And I want to say a thank you to all those around the world that have given us so much hope during this time. Students in campuses all across the USA, those in London at SOAS and UCL who are having encampments outside. Because they are the future, they are the people that are showing the way. So be prepared to be here many times more. We ain't going away, we ain't disappearing, we're standing with the Palestinian people.
My fucking goat, dude. That's why he's the best boy. Okay? The absolute best. That's why he's my goat.
To him attempting to do that, and do you have hope that this could happen?
Well, look, I disagree with the president's general policies toward Israel and what's happening in Gaza, but he is trying on occasion to do the right thing. And I think anyone who is aware of the level of suffering and destruction now in Gaza wants an immediate ceasefire. You need massive amounts of humanitarian aid to save, thousands and thousands of children. And of course, Netanyahu, as usual, undermines the President of the United States. And by the way, let's all be clear. This is not some abstract war being fought in another part of the world. We are, to a significant degree, as Americans, our tax dollars are funding this war.
Shahs and UTJ, the two Haredi parties, both came in support of the Israeli proposal, but it wasn't a call for ending the war. They didn't speak on that. They just said, we support the war cabinet's Israeli proposal to return the hostages.
So what Netanyahu is saying, oh, by the way, Mr. President, thanks for that $10 billion for unfettered military aid, but we're not going to listen to you. We're not going to do anything you want. And, I think that's outrageous, and that's, reason number 465 why he should not be invited to speak to the joint session of Congress.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you.